In 2023, a shocking rape case in Datong, Shaanxi, sparked outrage across China. But as the details unraveled, it became clear that this was far more than a simple criminal case. It was a tangled web of financial demands, emotional manipulation, and a legal system that seemed all too willing to take one side. The story started in June 2022 when a woman named Wu registered at a matchmaking agency. After 2 failed blind dates in July, reasons unknown, she remained single. In December, a man named Shi signed up at the same agency. By January 2023, they were matched and negotiations began, and 188,000 renminbi dowry, plus Wu's name added to the deed of their future marital home. On their engagement day, she paid 100,000 renminbi upfront and gifted Wu a 7.2-gram gold ring. The couple, along with Shi's family, signed an agreement stating that after 1 year of marriage, Wu's name would be added to the 90-square-meter marital home. The remaining 88,000 renminbi dowry would be paid in full when they officially registered their marriage. Everything seemed settled until it wasn't. The day after the engagement, she hosted a banquet at Wu's home for her relatives. Later that night, after returning to their 14th-floor apartment, Wu accused Shi of rape. On December 25, 2023, she was sentenced to 3 years in prison for rape. The trial judge later issued a statement addressing the controversy. According to court records, on May 2nd, the couple had spent the day together at home. That evening, Wu abruptly demanded that she hand over the property deed immediately, add her name to it, and pay the remaining 100,000 renminbi dowry on the spot. She explained that he didn't have that much cash at the moment and that the property deed wasn't with him. Wu, unsatisfied, became upset. The next night, on May 3rd, she reported to the police that she had been raped. When the police got involved, they found bruises on both of Wu's upper arms and her right wrist. The following day, Wu's brother visited Shi's family to resolve the matter. His attitude was straightforward. Since they were already engaged, they should go ahead and get married, but Wu's name had to be added to the property deed immediately. Shi's mother initially refused, but after realizing the police were involved, she relented. On May 4th, she signed a written guarantee agreeing to add Wu's name to the property and pay the remaining 88,000 renminbi dowry immediately. On May 5th, both families went to the Civil Affairs Bureau, waiting for Shi's sister to bring the property deed. The plan was to register the marriage, transfer the property, and settle the remaining dowry, all at once. But by 11 a.m., Wu suddenly changed her mind, grew impatient, and backed out. Shortly after, she was arrested for rape. The trial lasted just 40 minutes, with Shi found guilty and sentenced to 3 years in prison. The court's reasoning? Wu opposed premarital sex. Since they were not legally married, the judge ruled that Shi's actions constituted rape, regardless of the surrounding circumstances. Any disputes between the two families over money and property were dismissed as irrelevant. She immediately appealed, arguing that forensic evidence proved his innocence. According to the medical report, Wu's hymen was intact with no fresh tears, making it physically impossible for Shi to have raped her. He also insisted that he never intended to harm Wu. He only pulled her back inside because she was emotional and he was afraid she might hurt herself. The appellate court delayed the case 3 times, then requested a special extension from the Supreme People's Court, pushing the retrial all the way to June 7, 2025. Before the hearing, court officials approached Shi's family, offering a deal for probation, a quiet way to resolve the case without overturning the conviction. But Shi's family refused. They made it clear they'd rather have Shi serve the full sentence and appeal later than accept a deal they saw as an admission of guilt. By refusing the offer, they forced the appellate court to handle the case directly, turning it into a legal and public relations nightmare. Then came the most explosive revelation in the second trial. Shi tearfully protested his innocence, pointing out a serious flaw in the prosecution's case. He was officially arrested on May 15th, but Wu's forensic examination wasn't conducted until May 19th. In other words, the prosecution approved his arrest based purely on Wu's accusation, without a shred of forensic evidence at the time. What started as a financial negotiation quickly spiraled into a rape conviction, raising disturbing questions about fairness, false accusations, and a legal system that punishes men on little more than an allegation. Xi's case has now become a cautionary tale, not just about relationships, but about how a single accusation can destroy a man's life, even in the absence of concrete evidence.
The Datong rape case has been delayed again. Why? Based on what's circulating online, the case has reached an incredibly awkward impasse. Initially, everyone thought this was just a straightforward matter, whether or not the couple was engaged. Forced sex is a crime. But as more details emerged, people started to realize why this case keeps dragging on. The real issue is no longer whether the woman's will was violated. The real issue is whether anything even happened in the first place. According to the man's appeal documents, medical records confirm that the woman's hymen was intact, with no fresh tears, and forensic reports found zero traces of male DNA or fluids. So the question is, did they even have sex? The evidence says no, but the woman says yes. In a case where only 2 people were present, does her claim alone make it true? Are we at the point where reality is now dictated by testimony rather than facts? The modern legal definition of consent is already a minefield. A woman can willingly visit a man's home, but that doesn't mean she consents. She can kiss him, engage in foreplay, even undress herself, and it still doesn't mean she consents. She can say yes 1 second and no the next, and everything changes. She can consent beforehand, but withdraw at mid-act. And if the man doesn't react instantly, he's a criminal. We've reached a point where consent isn't a clear action, but a shifting, unpredictable state. It's almost impossible to prove someone had or didn't have it, yet courts still treat it as the ultimate deciding factor. And now, this case has taken things to an even more absurd level. It's not just consent that's ambiguous, but the very existence of sex itself. In most rape cases, courts rely heavily on a woman's initial reaction. If she reports it immediately, the legal system assumes it was against her will. Whether it qualifies as rape depends on whether force or threats were used, but ultimately, her word carries enormous weight. But this case has gone even further, because now, even the act itself seems to depend entirely on her testimony. There is no physical evidence of sex, yet the first trial still convicted the man and sentenced him to 3 years. What does that say? It says that a man and a woman can be alone together, and their state exists in a quantum superposition of sex happened and sex didn't happen, until the woman speaks. The moment she accuses him, the reality collapses into whatever version of events benefits her, and the court simply goes along with it. The first trial rushed to convict, brushing aside any uncertainty over whether intercourse even occurred. Now, the appeals court is stuck with a legal disaster under national scrutiny. Can a woman's unclear, hesitant in a phone call be used as evidence? Is this a legitimate conviction, or is this a sham ruling to protect the accuser? And the longer the courts delay, the more obvious it becomes that they don't know how to handle this mess. There was once a probation deal on the table, an attempt to quietly close the case. But for the accused, what's the point? He's already spent 2 years in detention on a 3-year sentence. Why compromise now? Even with probation, the conviction remains, branding him a sex offender for life. His future? Ruined. His children's future? Stained. Think about it. This man has spent 2 years in detention and never confessed. He cried twice during trial, yet remained firm in his innocence. He refused a plea deal, even when it meant immediate release. At this point, any rational person should ask themselves why, because the courts certainly won't. This case, like others before it, reveals a disturbing truth. The justice system is so terrified of not believing women that it would rather convict men with zero physical evidence than risk being seen as unsupportive of victims. And the consequences? Guilty until proven innocent. A system where allegations outweigh facts. A legal process that prioritizes public perception over real justice. This isn't an isolated incident. Just a few years ago, another blind date rape case ended with a man being declared innocent after serving 3 years. How many more times will the system sacrifice due process just to appear on the right side of history? This case is a warning to everyone. Because if facts no longer matter, if accusations alone can destroy lives, then no one is safe.
The second trial of the Datong engagement rape case has taken a dramatic turn, with newly revealed dashcam recordings suggesting that the woman and her family carefully orchestrated an extortion scheme disguised as marriage. What first appeared to be a criminal case is now looking more like a calculated marriage trap, far beyond a simple relationship dispute. Exclusive audio obtained by media exposes the woman's family laying out their plan step by step. In the recording, her mother can be heard saying, "Once the marriage certificate is issued, your name will be added to the house deed." She then makes a chilling threat. "If she dares to ruin my daughter, I'll ruin her." These statements don't just hint at their intentions. They outright confirm that marriage was being used as leverage for financial gain. Even more damning is the fact that these conversations happened right in front of the man, making the coercion impossible to ignore. Legally speaking, this case fits the textbook definition of extortion. The woman's family used threats to demand property and money, with the amount exceeding 500,000 yuan, well above the threshold for especially large amounts, which carries a potential sentence of over 10 years. Meanwhile, the man is already serving a 3-year sentence for rape, creating a glaring contradiction that makes the case even more absurd. Beyond this one case, the bigger picture is alarming. Some people are turning marriage into a financial trap, fine-tuning it into an almost professionalized scam. Worse, they're exploiting the justice system's tendency to protect women, using criminal accusations as a bargaining chip. This doesn't just undermine the integrity of the law, it erodes public trust in the system itself. As the investigation continues, there's growing pressure on the courts to see through the deception, reconsider the man's conviction, and hold the woman and her family accountable. But this isn't just about one case. It's a test of whether the justice system can still uphold fairness in the face of blatant manipulation. When love is weaponized for extortion and vows become threats, anyone could be the next victim.